And so when she finally agrees to have this interview, it's not really an interview because the psychologist has questions, or is it a psychiatrist? Who knows? Mental health specialist has questions, but Firdaus says, I'm about to be murdered. I'm about to die. I have a death sentence. Just shut up and let me tell you my story. And she starts telling her story, and it's quite an impressive story that brings up all the issues that I just shared with you. And we're going to hopefully have enough time to discuss most of them. But before we go to that, something is very, very clear from the very beginning, and it's the fact that Firdaus hates men. Okay, as we read her story, we're going to understand where this hatred comes from. She just passionately hates men. A lot of times, and particularly in the last few years, we have been led to believe that you should just hate men. As women, you should just hate men. Hate them because they're evil and they're flawed. Hate them. But when we fall into that behavior, we're doing exactly the same thing that racists do. One person from a particular race does something, and then people just think everybody is exactly like that. Okay? And that's very dangerous. So when we start saying that we hate men, and that's a very common narrative, very popular on social media, and people are like, yeah, they're scum, yeah, they're pigs. We are doing the exact same thing that racist ideology has done. Simply making these generalizations and thinking that everybody of a particular ethnic group is exactly the same, and that is not fair. So let me tell you what happened to me when I was 8 years old. And I'm going to show you a picture of me at the age of 8 so you can understand the story. Let me find it. Here it is. And let me share my screen. So yeah, this was me at age 8. Okay, can you see that? Thumbs up if you can see that. Yes? Okay. So that's me at the age of 8. So that picture is very, very old. That picture is from about 1978. I'm old. So I want you to pay attention to my hair. Now, the reason why my hair is like this is because when I was a little girl, and to this day, hair is just a huge trauma for me. Every time my mom would try to comb my hair or even wash my hair, I would scream and cry and kick because I hated people touching my hair. And so one day I told my dad, just cut it all off. And my dad said, no, you're a girl. And I just cut all of it off, cut it off. I don't want to have hair. Maybe I'll show you a picture of me when I had hair, if I can find it. Yeah, I know where it is. But that's not the point. So when a kid is 8 years old and I didn't wear any jewelry and you have a little afro, it's very easy to be mistaken for a boy. Okay? So we stopped staring at me at 8 years old. The reason why I was there is because that was the first rose my mom planted, and she was like super excited that she got her first rose. So she wanted to take a picture of the rose, but then she wanted me in the picture because then nobody would understand why a grown woman was taking a picture of a rose. Obviously, that's not something you did back then, but nowadays it's completely acceptable. Anyway, so I'm 8 years old and I look like a little boy. And there was this social gathering one evening at church. Now, we had just moved to a country in Central America called Belize. It's a small country and they speak English. And that's why I speak English. Well, no, that's not why, but that's another story. So we had just moved to this country when I was 8 years old and my hair was like that. And I looked like a little boy, I know. So we were at this a huge social gathering and I'm wearing pants. And I remember the pants had like elastic around the waist because it's the 70s. And I remember that it was blue and it had like stripes. So the blouse and the pants were the same material and it had like blue stripes. Don't ask, it was the 70s. So I'm there standing and a boy, probably he was a teenager, but to me, he was a big boy. He came to me and he said, they say you're a girl. And I said, uh-huh. And he said, let me check. And he opened my pants. So I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't run. I just looked at him. I turned around and I found my dad. And my dad found the police and they arrested him. And that was it. I have never been one of these oh kind of persons. Never. That's just not my personality. I don't do that. But at that age, I knew that there had to be an adult in charge of defending me. And I went to that adult, my dad, and my dad did what he had to do. Good. I don't really know how the story ended, but I do know that I heard people saying that, oh, he's just a minor and you're not from this country and blah, blah, blah. But he was arrested, and that's scary for a kid. So to me, it was like, we're even. That happened when I was 8 years old. I do not hate men. I do not think all men are garbage. In fact, I love men. I respect men. And I especially like conversations with teenage boys, because I think teenage boys are like, I mean, so deep and so crazy at the same time. What am I telling you this for? Sometimes in life, you're going to go through stuff and you have a choice to make. You can either go to one extreme and just eliminate everybody that looks like the person, the perpetrator, or you can put it in the correct balance and realize that that one person was flawed and not everybody else that looks like him. Okay? So that's something that's very important that you need to figure out in your head. I could have said, I hate men. I hate men. Because when I was 8 years old, and you know, a lot of people would support me and they say, yeah, you're right. Hate them. Hate them. I would be supported. In fact, if I got an Instagram today and I posted that picture and I wrote that story, I would get 100 women telling me, yeah, men are the worst. Hate them. Hate them. I know this. But what's the sense in that? Why would I judge a whole gender based on something stupid that one boy did? I can judge his mother, for instance. I think she did a really bad job at being a mother. I can judge his father because his father was probably an idiot. But I cannot judge every single human man that exists because it's just not right. It doesn't make sense. But a lot of times when we hear these women and some men on social media and in public places talking about how much they hate men, they're going to have a story like that. Some of them have 2 and 3 stories like those, but they're going to have a story like that in which somebody of that gender was abusive. Ladies and gentlemen, that does not give you the excuse and the right to hate every single person from that gender. Because if one Black person stole somebody's purse, that doesn't mean I'm a thief. I'm not going to be stealing nobody's purse. And it really irritates me when people say that all Black people are thieves, or that all Central Americans are lazy, or that all Asians eat dog, or that all Italians are the mafia. It's irritating. But we do the same thing with the entire gender and we think it's okay. It's not okay. So let's go to Firdaus' story. Within the first few pages of chapter 1, there's like a lot of trauma. When she was just a little girl, she had this little game that she played with some little boy named Mohammadin, in which he would slip his hands into her pants and play with her parts. And the worst thing is that she actually enjoyed it. Okay, she's not a bad person. She's just a little girl, and he's touching a place that feels good. So she enjoys it. And then she goes to the person that she thinks is her mother, and she asks her, where's my dad? How could you have me without my dad? And what is the mom's first reaction? She goes to the village and finds some woman with a razor blade, and they cut off her parts. Okay. Now, let's think about this. And I want you to answer me. Why did the woman have that extreme reaction? And what is the purpose of cutting off parts of her vagina? Talk to me before I name names. Why did the mom have that extreme, or the person that was probably her mom, probably not, who knows? Why did that woman have that extreme reaction?
Because she used her tongue freely being a kid, and maybe that scares her mom.
Okay, good. Who else? Why did a woman who could have been her mom or just one of her dad's wives have that extreme reaction, like, "Oh, you're asking about your dad, I'm going to cut off a piece of you"? Why? Think, people, think. When kids start asking about the birds and the bees, as a limited-minded parent, what would you think?
Well, we don't have kids yet, so I don't know.
If
I
you
would
were
like,
a parent,
it's not time, okay?
okay, I hope so, guys. I don't look like nobody's grandma. If you were a parent and some little daughter that you have starts asking you about how could you have a baby if I don't have a dad, the child is asking you about what topic? Sex, exactly. So if this little girl is asking about sex, what's the immediate reaction of this woman? Hello?
I would say, because I have seen movies like that, and mothers think that their daughters are not pure.
Okay.
And
Okay. So the kid asks a question about how could you have me without a dad? That's a question about sex. The woman freaks out and decides it's time to take off her vagina because she's going to have sex. Okay. What is the purpose of removing parts of the vagina? And vagina is not a bad word, you can say it. What is the purpose of removing parts of the vagina? Who wants to tell me? What could be the purpose of that? Because after that procedure was done, then when Firdaus went back to play with Mohammadin, she no longer felt anything. It was like, well, this doesn't feel good anymore. What was the purpose of that procedure? Come on, kids, you can talk to me. I know you talk to your friends about sex. You can talk to me.
I think it's because so she doesn't feel pleasure.
Exactly. Okay. Huge, very huge misogyny thing there, right there. Women are not supposed to enjoy sex. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, I am so old. I look great, but I'm old. When I was growing up, I actually heard a lot of preachers say that from the pulpit, that sex was not created for women, it was created for men. So women are not supposed to feel any pleasure or enjoy it. And for a long time, I actually thought that was true. And then I woke up. The thing is this, ladies and gentlemen, when a woman's private parts are cut out, the intention is for her to never be able, ever in her life to enjoy sex. So when her mother or the woman who was there made that extreme decision, she was scared that this little girl was going to enjoy sex. And so let's just cut that out so she never enjoys sex again. Now, this is a habit. It's a cultural habit. It's not something that she just sat down and figured out. No, it's a cultural thing. And as you can see, the perpetrators and the promoters and the people who continue this habit are women. What in the world? Somebody did that to you and you think it's a good idea to do it to somebody else. Why does that happen? Talk to me. Why does that happen? Feel like I'm talking to myself. I'm going to start naming names. Why is that answer in the dark? It used to be Adrian in the dark. No, it's an answer in the dark. What is this about? That's a little better. That's not better. Okay. I can see your face now. Talk to me, people. Why would a woman who knows how painful and horrible that is, why would she inflict that same thing on another woman?
Because internalized misogyny and because internalized misogyny, there are women who love to validate, like to feel validated into the male gaze. So that's why I think that those ideas obviously come from patriarchy, and patriarchy are men. So I think to just follow like the male gaze.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And none of those habits, none of the patriarchy or the misogyny is ever going to stop unless women stop it. Because some of the biggest promoters of the patriarchy are women. Sadly, you're going to hear women saying, no, you're a wife, you're supposed to wash and clean and cook and stay home. Or, oh no, you're a wife, you're supposed to only have babies and don't find a job. Women are the ones telling their sons and their daughters this foolishness. So unless women really get their head in the game and put a stop to this, it's going to continue. The patriarchy is led by a lot of women, but that's a whole different topic. So after that happens, then she explains that she had an uncle who used to do the same thing to her. Her uncle, he would play with her body parts. And she does not mention that any of this was horrible or that she wanted to stop. She actually loved that uncle and was really sad every time he would leave. Why? Why do you think that she could not recognize that this was some form of abuse? Why did she not see it as abuse and just saw it as it's the stuff that people do? What would have made that happen? Her inability to recognize this as abuse. Why is everybody so quiet? I'm going to name names. Let's start at the top of my screen. The question is, why did she not was not able? Why was she not able to identify her uncle touching her up and Mohammadin touching her up? Why was she not able to identify that as abuse? Eduardo Soto, talk to me.
That's complicated. I would say for the only reason there was no father there.
Okay, that's a good
I
reason.
mean, that's hard. I don't know.
Mhm. And so if there was no father there, what was she looking for? What did she really want? What was she craving? Let's go to Amir. You're next on my screen. Eduardo Soto says that the reason is probably because there was no father there. But there was a father. He was just not giving her something that she needed. What was it that she was needing, Amir?
Like also, I think that we all need like the protection of our fathers because our mothers and our fathers have a big part in our lives. That's gonna like in certain topic that gonna like determine how you wanna be in the future.
Okay. The word is determined. Good. Good, Amir. So she had a father, and she saw her father go every week to the mosque and pray, and she saw him come home and beat the woman she thinks was her mother every day. And then she goes on to explain how abusive her father was. For instance, he had more than one wife, right? And the wife had to be the one to take care of him and whatever. So when it was very cold, he would take the part of the room that was the warmest, and the mother or the wife had to go and hug him and warm him up while the kids were cold in a corner. And when it was hot, the mother had to wash his feet. And when that mother disappeared, then Firdaus had to wash his feet because he was a big baby and couldn't wash his own feet. And even though sometimes there was no food to eat, he always had supper. And supper is the last meal of the day, which people today call dinner. Before it used to be called supper. So you would have breakfast, dinner, and supper. And now they change it to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But supper is cena. So even all the other kids and Firdaus and the wife, they would be hungry, but he always had supper. And once she was so hungry that she tried to take something from his plate and he hit her hard, so she didn't have food. And there were a lot of wives and a lot of kids. And when one of the little girls died, when one of the female children died, he'd be like, nothing happened. Let me go come wash my feet, give me supper. But when the little baby that died was a boy, he would beat the mother. So this is the kind of person that Firdaus saw as her dad. And apparently every so often he changed wives, or he had more than one, because there came a time when she did not know who her mother really was. And so she saw this woman and she's like, no, I don't think that's my mom, because my mom's eyes were different. And she describes the woman as having dead eyes. So let's talk about this ability to have more than one wife. Is this something that, okay, this is something that exists in other cultures, okay? Men are allowed to have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 wives because it means that they are successful. Is this something that should be brought back? Do you think it's a good idea that men should be allowed to have more than one wife? Think about it.
Well,
Yes, go ahead.
it's not fair. It's not fair in that situation because the wives cannot have multiple husbands. It's only the men that can have multiple spouses. And so that's the problem with that. There's an inequality in that situation because the man can have whatever he wants, but the woman has to be faithful and loyal to that single guy.
Yeah, that's a great point, Moises. Women cannot have multiple husbands. I don't think women would want multiple husbands. But anyway, yes. So the way they explain it to each other is that, oh, I have another woman to help with the washing and the cooking and the cleaning. And they think it's perfectly normal to have a husband that has a lot of different wives. So other than what Moises mentioned, what else is wrong with this picture? With this one man having multiple wives. What is really wrong with this? I'm going to name names, people, so start talking. Think about it. One man gets to have 5 wives. What is wrong with that? Other than what Moises mentioned, which is that women don't get to have more than one husband in that culture. What is wrong with that picture? So next on my screen is Aranza. Do you see anything else wrong with it, and what is it?
I see everything wrong with that. But I think that one thing that I could say is that then the point of marriage, that kind of relationship, is not love. It's only boy empowerment, men empowerment, and just showing a woman like a trophy. I mean, there's not love. There's only entre más mejor. That kind of stuff.
The more the merrier. The more the merrier. That's the saying. Okay, that's a good point. Mary Foster, what's wrong with the picture of men having more than one wife? Ooh, she did a little stretch. This is gonna be good. Come on, tell me, what do you think? What's your opinion about it? How does it feel?
I think the first thought is like it feels gross for me. Like, I don't think it is. I will see it right now. I was thinking about what Aranza said of what I could say. And then I got like, if you have like multiple wives, like, I don't understand how there's like, I don't know, like, there's not even an order. I think it affects specifically the kids in that thing. They don't know who to look at. They don't know what's the real family figure. There's like too much, I don't know, misbehavior around. And I think that affects specifically the kids and the family or whatever that's it.
Mm-hmm. There's a certain Christian denomination that actually allows men to have more than one wife, and they see it as one big happy family. The problem that I particularly see with it, it goes back to the same thing that I've been mentioning. The fact that, first of all, that women would, well, in some cases, they're not willing to do it, but the fact that women would allow or participate in something like that. And the question has always been, why? Why would women agree to something like that? So it could be culture, because that's the way it's done, so let's do it. But there is another bigger reason. What's the bigger reason why women would agree to something like this?
I now saw videos about those things happening in strange culture, and one of the reasons of the wife was that they wanted to feel safe, and it was a lot of nonsense. Like they can be friends with the other wives, and they can teach each other instead of going out in the park and meeting some kind of strange person, but they have kids too, and the common thing, they won't like that. They said in the video. And the other thing is that the other reason is that in those countries, I don't know where, but like in Musulmanes, they have like that rule, like so strict, and religion so strict that a lot of women get raped, and the way to get like saved is to get married to a man that has tons of wives, and you can save your kid and save yourself. Okay.
Yeah, but it's not only in these foreign countries. In the United States, there are people who practice this religion who have 10, 15 wives and 20 something kids, and they think it's perfectly okay. And they say the Bible says you can do it because Abraham in the Bible had a lot of wives. So sometimes we go all the way across the world to find crazy. It's not all the way across the world. It's right here close by. But yes, what Mandisa is mentioning, that they do it to find protection. Now, so my question is this, and this is something any one of you can answer. You know that a lot of men have like an extra woman, right? They call him the querida. I don't know why they call it la querida. That makes no sense, because that means he doesn't love the wife, but he likes the querida. So anyway, that's just stupid. But anyway, a lot of men, and in English it's worse, it's called a sweetheart. Excuse me? Anyway, a lot of men have this extra woman, right? A lot of times, and I'm going to say 99% of the time, this extra woman is only in it for the money. I have spoken to tons of men and women and extra women, and they're going to just tell you to your face, hey, I needed money. Okay, so it all comes back to the same issue. Having a lot of women is a sign of prosperity. It means that as a man, you are prosperous, you got money. And that's what a lot of women who are not awake, women who are just sleepwalking through life, that's what a lot of them are looking for, the alleged safety of money. Okay, so even if over here in Panama, it's not legal to have more than one wife, there are a lot of Panamanian men having one or two extra women. So it's a thing. It doesn't mean that all men are flawed. That's not what it means. It means that the whole mentality, that whole patriarchy, and the whole misogyny is so deeply embedded in us that it's very difficult to step away from it. One woman told me, and we're actually great friends now. She was one of these extra women for many, many years. And she told me, what do I want to have a man for if he can't give me money? I was only there for the money. I needed extra money because I wanted a car and I wanted a house. And then she said, no woman in her right mind is going to be somebody's querida if he doesn't have money. And you know what? That's true. But all of this mentality goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. We tell our boys and girls, oh, the woman has to stay home and wash, cook, clean, whatever, and the man has to go out and work. we hardly ever tell the woman, go out and work and get your own money. We make women believe that they need to depend on the man to bring home the money. Ridiculous. And that's one of the reasons why so many women are willing to be a second or third or 10th wife and an extra woman. Okay, so my question to you is this. Would you, if you had a difficult financial situation, would you agree to become a second or third or fourth wife? Who would agree? Be honest. And if not, you need to tell me why. And next on my screen is Genesis. You knew it was you. If you had financial difficulties, would you agree to be a wife number 8?
Honestly, no, because I feel like I value like myself more than that. It's like I would not like to be taken as, how can I say, like a toy that they can do with me what they want, fool me and things like that. I value myself more because I am more than that.
You know, Genesis, I love what you said because I am on this quest to find out why so many people, meaning older people like my parents, my mom's generation people, why were they so closed-minded and why did they pass on so many toxic ideas to my generation? And then a lot of people in my generation are closed-minded and having a hard time understanding modern youth. So what I did was that I started looking at TV shows from 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, which would be the time around which my mother's generation were kids and were watching TV. And so I'm watching a whole lot of old movies, and my daughters hate it. One of them, the other one especially, she hates that I'm watching old movies, but I kind of explained to her and she understood the reason why I'm doing this investigation. So the other day I was watching this Disney movie called Carnaval en el Bosque. I don't know what the name was in English, but it was in English. I don't know what the name was. So I'm sitting there analyzing it. I'm looking at all of it. And, you know, she comes in and I start talking to her, like, look at these things. Look at the brainwash. And then one of the actors starts singing a song, a love song. And it was so toxic. And basically the song was telling the woman, you're just a toy. I love to admire you and play with you. You're just a toy. And then she starts singing and she's like, I'm just a toy. You can admire me and play with me. I'm just a beautiful toy. And then the last line in the song is, you're just a toy. What? So imagine being a little kid and you're watching this foolishness on TV and you're singing this beautiful song. Oh, I'm just a toy. What do you think happens to your mentality? What happens? Who wants to take this? Diane, answer me. What happens if you're a kid, you're watching this beautiful kid movie and this wonderful love story, and this guy is telling this girl, you're just a toy, and she's saying, I'm just a toy. What happens? What do you start thinking?
That I'm a toy.
Yes, and?
Wait. I will start thinking that I am a toy and every other single woman are toys.
Mm-hmm. And if we're only toys, what does it mean? Does a toy go out and work? Does a toy try to be a professional or whatever and try to make her own money, start her own business? Is that something that toys do? No. What do toys do? Like
Stand still and obey. Like the song Barbie.
yeah.
I'm a Barbie, can dress me up and
Yeah, you can play with my hair and dress me up and take me everywhere. Exactly. Okay? So if I grow up thinking that I'm a toy, I'm just supposed to stay home and be pretty. And then we see all these movies in the 50s and 60s where the women stayed at home and the house was perfect and the women were always wearing high heels and these beautiful dresses. Who walks around in their house in high heels? You never see an old movie with kids wearing slippers. Everybody's wearing high heels. The hair is perfect. The makeup is perfect. And when the husband comes home, she takes his bag and gives him a kiss. And he just goes, what's for dinner? And she serves his food. And there you go, life. So that mentality is deeply embedded in our grandparents. Well, not yours, my grandparents and my parents, not yours, mine. And we pass it on from generation to generation. So of course, women are going to want to be the extra woman or the third or 10th or 11th wife, because we have this inside of us that we're weak and frail and toys, and somebody has to rescue us. Now, people, this is something that nobody's going to tell you. A man who needs a woman to constantly do everything for him is not a man, he's a boy. A man who needs to marry a woman so she can become his mother is not a man, that's a boy. You don't want to be that, you don't want one of those. You don't. A masculine man can do stuff for himself. I'm not saying with this that don't clean your house, don't wash your dishes, don't cook. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there has to be a balance. It cannot be that you're absolutely in charge of cleaning the house, plus you have a job, because most women nowadays have a job. So you have your job and you have to rush home to cook, to clean, to wash, while your husband just comes home and sits down like, "Kaya de comer." No, that's not a man, that's a boy. A masculine man, a real masculine man, is going to want to help. You don't have to be, por favor, sácame la basura, ¿viste? Sácame la basura, por favor, sácame la basura. No, you don't have to do that. Because if he's a masculine man, he wants to contribute. He wants to serve. The problem is that a lot of women these days are picking up these little pretty boys and marrying them and thinking that they're men. Sorry to tell you, any man that just sits there and has you washing, cooking, falling down, and doing everything else, that's a boy. So the problem is not that all men are bad. The problem is that some women are just picking up boys, and they want these boys to act like men. He's never going to act like a man. He's a boy. So that brings me to my next question, and we're going to end really soon. What can we do to change this? You are the ones that are going to have to change this. That's why I'm trying to get you to change this, because it's you. Lagali and the rest of you, tell me one thing that you can do to change this. This is only one story that takes place in Egypt, but you can be sure that there's a lot of similarities between foolishness that's going on right now, right here in this country. What can we do to change this? Tell me one thing, Lagali. Hello? Oh, take your time, think. The rest of you start thinking. Think from now. We got, let's say, 5 more minutes.
I would say don't change yourself too fast, quick, because
Don't fool yourself. What do you mean?
like I would say that most of the things that we happen to do in the future are because we change, because of people around us telling us like, "Tú no haces eso. You have the age. You have to do it right now. Okay, you are a grown up." And I might be saying like, I will not cook for you. I will not cook for you. Even though you're my husband or boyfriend or whatever, I will not cook. I will cook when I want to, if I'm in a good mood. But no, people around us tend to criticize us so much, and not in just words, but in look. that we're like, oh, we're supposed to do that. And I think that's how we change our thoughts again and go back to the things that we're saying in general, like, I will not do that. I promise. I
Yeah.
will not fall for some stupid guy, but yeah, in the future we do that. Just because people are around us and the thoughts and the criticize las críticas.
Yes, the criticism. It's peer pressure. So what you're saying is don't fall for the peer pressure. Good, Layani. Are you through thinking? Thank you.
I think that you should think for yourself first and then think others then.
Okay, good, Natalie. Natalie, go ahead.
I would say that if we want to see a change in, I don't know, in the world, first we should start by us. If I want, like, I don't know, like to give the example, and then if I give the example and I do the right things, then I can judge and say, and try to like help other people to think as me.
Okay, great. Janice?
Asking yourself, like constantly, like asking yourself about topics on society and on situations that you might get, and that's what I do.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, actually asking yourself about the not gender roles, society, basically.
Good. Anna?
I feel like we should think about ourselves first and choose the right person to be around and to be the first choices of each person.
Okay. Mary?
Well, I say that educate better our future children, child, and when we are going to be with someone, make sure he is already a man and not a child with stupid beliefs.
Yep. Sally?
Well, I just think that we can stop that toxic commentary spy, don't get quiet when someone is questioning our decisions, like you should stay calm and cool, we should fight and say like, no, I want to work and something like that.
Good. Moises?
I think that women should be more careful who they marry, and men should mature. That's not even faster, because some men don't even mature ever, and they think they're children up until the day they die. So yeah, I think that what I would do is be the exception, be different at that. So I wouldn't expect my wife or my girlfriend or whatever to cook and clean and do everything in the house while I do nothing. I would help and be proactive. Like, I don't know, maybe one day she cooks, then one day I cook. Make it balanced instead of you do everything, I do nothing.
Yeah. Okay, boys and girls, please read the book. It's deep and it brings out a lot of issues that you need to be talking about, you need to be thinking about, because like I said, you're not the future adults, you are the adults of right now. You might be 15, 16, but you are going to be the ones in charge of calling the shots and making the big decisions. So you need to be really clear on certain mentalities that simply cannot continue to be part of society. Okay, so this was fun, people. 12th graders, have a great time next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then on Thursday and Friday, you have your regular online classes. The classes that are in person will not be online, and you will have no assignments from those classes. The online classes are the ones that you will not do in person. Okay, that was fun. See you next time. Bye-bye.